And now, KVRH Radio, the first in thrill on the radio, and Waste Management, the professionals in the waste disposal profession, is proud to bring you Eddie Mackin, Private Eye, a full two-fisted and chain-smoking half hour of detectives, dames, adventure, and death. Now we go into the first program with tonight's adventure, The Dangerous Steps. Get this and get it straight. I'm not all Holmes, Marlowe, or Spade. I'm just a fresh guy from Korea who stumbled onto crooked deals, a new job, 3 beautiful dames, and death couldn't be far behind. It all started on an old flight of stairs. It happened like this. The breeze from the San Francisco Bay seemed oddly cold for the middle of July. The rain and smog that hung around the city held on like a thick strand of smoke from a fat man's cigar. I stood on the street corner just off the bus in my military uniform. I lit a cigarette and itched the scar on my leg where they dug the bullet out of me. I looked down the wharf and out to the sea, smoggy and forgotten, just how I left it 2 years ago. I walked down the street listening to the echo of my footsteps. I looked around and finally found what I was looking for. A door reading, San Fran Sun Boarding House, proprietor Lynetta McKay. See inside for rates. Hello? Miss McKay?
Be there in a second.
Take your time. I looked around the quaint old place. It was warm and homey. I liked the large fireplace and bookshelf. I walked over and opened a book to read while I waited. I began reading Romeo and Juliet.
You enjoy Shakespeare?
Yes, ma'am. I think he's quite... Oh, well, hello there.
You expected something else?
If I had expected anything, it wouldn't have been a thin blonde that seemed poured into a pair of women's slacks, or the way a white shirt held loose to her frame, but not too loose, or her golden hair that hung down low on her shoulders, and a face that would give Bacall a run for her money.
Are you quite done staring? Have you listened to a word I've said?
No, sorry, I was expecting, little old Granny, maybe.
Well, you're right about that. Grandma, you have a customer.
Well, howdy. Come on in, young man. My, a GI by any chance?
Yes, ma'am. I haven't been able to get a new suit.
No problem, Mr.
Mackin. Eddie Mackin.
Mr. Mackin, I realize you've already met my granddaughter, Catherine McKay.
I've had the pleasure.
Yes, I see from the way you two lull in the conversation. And I'm Lynette McKay.
Very pleased to meet you both.
One of us more than the other.
Granny.
Well, I'd like to rent a room if there's any available.
Sure. Katie, show Mr.
Eddie, please.
Fine. Show Mr. Eddie to room 25. You know the way. Show him yourself.
That's my grandmother. She's quite crazy, isn't she?
Maybe, but I like her.
Down here at the end of the hall. It's $2.50 a month unless you're with us for more than 6 months. Then it's $1.50. Each room has a radio, a refrigerator, and a bathroom with a shower.
Sounds nice.
Here it is. Room service every day at 9. 50 cents added to the bill each time you use it.
Thank you.
What is it exactly that you do, Mr. Mackin?
Please, call me Eddie. And as of right now, I don't know. The boys at the recruitment office tried to set me up with one at the Climax Car Company or something like that, but I don't know how far that will go.
I see. Well, I wish you luck, Mr. Eddie.
Thank you, Miss McKay.
Call me Katie. Everyone else does.
Sure thing, Katie. Just then I pulled the picture in full frame from my bag. As I turned to set it on the dresser, it slipped. Me and Katie dove for it at the same time. Our hands grabbed each other and the picture at the same time.
I've got to go.
Sweet girl. Very nice. The picture in question was one of my Marine unit in Korea, 278th Infantry. I stared at it for a minute and set it on the dresser and laid down for some much-needed rest.
We'll return with the second act of Eddie Mackin, Private Eye, in just a second. But first, a good word from our sponsor.
This is the perfect family scene when Mom, Dad, and Junior all want to hear the same radio program. But how often does it happen? This is more like it. Junior wants to hear his favorite Western show. And Dad must hear the news.
This is the CBC News. Toronto. All Canada is...
And Mom just can't miss that soap opera.
I'm tired of you. Nothing you can say can change that.
Oh, Melvin.
Well, that's life, isn't it? But you'll find the answer at your RCA Victor dealers in the complete line of famous RCA Victor personal radios. For Junior, there's the Nipper 3, budget priced at only $29.95 in a choice of 8 lively colors. As for Mom, she'll be thrilled with the radio that never forgets, the RCA Victor clock radio. Besides turning on appliances automatically, it can be set to remind Mom when her favorite program is on the air.
And now, another chapter in the lives of Maud and Melvin Terhune.
And Dad can now enjoy his news programs on this handsome 641. And after the news, he'll have fun with those 6 international wave bands. Yes, see these and other RCA Victor personal radios at your RCA Victor dealers. They all have RCA Victor's famous Golden Throat tone system, and they're all engineered by RCA Victor, world leader in radio.
And now we return to the second act of Eddie Mackin, Private Eye.
I had spent 3 weeks in San Francisco. I had been with the McKays all that time. From dawn till dusk, I searched the town for a job, but nothing clicked. I had my shot with the Climax Automotive Group. They were nice, friendly, great people, but they didn't want me. I think it was my ugly mug. Oh well. The McKays had been good to me, but I had needed to find money so I could pay the rent in a week. But as the days grew closer, so did the fact that I didn't have enough cash dawn on me. But then opportunity knocked.
Eddie! Oh, Eddie! Oh, there you are. I have a job for you if you're interested.
Yes, Miss McKay?
Well, I've had this client, a Dutch Kagan. He's a real card, you know. Big, bulky guy. Must have been a bully in elementary school. Anyway, that bum hasn't paid the rent in at least 2 months. And I'm fed up with it. He comes in here when he wants, sleeps for days, and then leaves without so much as a tip for the room service clerk. He is worrying me, and I think he's going to skip town soon. But by Job, not until he pays me exactly $450.23.
All right, Miss McKay, what do you want me to do?
Well, that bum is downstairs eating in the dining room. If you took my car, do you think you could catch him? Maybe if he has a job somewhere, I could contact the company and they could pay me what I'm owed out of my salary? Oh, and in turn you could stay here for at least a month without having to pay me. Whether or not Mr. Kagan can pay the bill. What do you think?
I looked into her old cherub-like eyes. I couldn't not pay the old girl, and I didn't have anything better to stay in or do, so I said the only sensible answer. She handed me the keys to her car, an old Pierce Arrow. I walked out to the dining room and sat down. I watched the hulk of a man known as Kagan eat like a pig. I was in my new suit, which I bought at a discount shop, and this fedora I'd bought when I'd seen it in the window. I played with the crown as I watched him stand up and monkey his way out of the dining room. He went outside and pulled off in a green Nash, a nice car for a guy who couldn't pay rent. I jumped into McKay's Arrow and followed the guy from the wharf clear to the candy district. He pulled to a stop near a tall old building, separate and alone from all the others. It was almost dark by the time I pulled my car to a stop on the opposite side of the street and listened to Gerald Moore play a private detective who seemed to know what he was doing. I was about to give up when I heard two things that got me running and hopping the fence around the old building. I was already over the fence when I heard the shots, but by the time the car had driven off, I asked myself what I was doing. This wasn't Korea. I didn't have backup. I didn't even have a police badge to investigate. Heck, I didn't even have a gun. But I walked up to the old brimstone and pushed the door open, and followed a foul stench up an old dangerous flight of stairs. I heard a noise at the top and stared up into the old light above the doorway to see Kagan creak up, stiff as a board, and look down at me. He was sweating hard, and the red carnation in his suit was... Wait. It was a white carnation. Kagan swayed and moaned, and then... Kagan fell like a rock over the edge of the stairs. I sprinted up the rest of the stairs to help him. I pulled him into the room and lifted him onto an old couch, poking out from between hundreds of cardboard boxes, sitting still and piled high with dust. Kagan moaned and squalled like a child. Finally, though, he said, "Listen."
"Listen, buddy, I ain't got much time, but the dame, the one in just got out of here in the green cloche hat that just took out of here. It was her. It was her, not the other dame."
I didn't have the heart to tell him that I hadn't seen any woman, let alone some woman in a cloche hat. But by now, she was long gone. I let Kagan's head down slow and let him rest there on the couch. Then I took a look around. The office was relatively small. The wall hung a picture of Miss 1929, and she had seen better days. A cigarette hole was burned into her belly. I itched my scar on my leg again. The run over here had really hurt it. I looked around trying to find something. Then I knocked into a box and the contents spilled out. It was a film reel cover. No name or address. Only a reel cover. I searched the rest of the place to find more of the same. And an empty hat box. Designed for a cloche, I guessed. I then decided to check Kagan for clues. I searched his jacket to find a folded up photo that read July 1952. I stuck it into my pocket. I checked his breast pocket to find a picture of a girl in a cloche hat at the beach with a name written under it. "Love you, darling. June." I opened his wallet. I found a roll of hundreds. $1,000 in all. I pushed them into my coat. I then grabbed at an odd-feeling object in his coat. It was square and it pushed against the inside of his jacket sleeve. I shook his arm until a large metal plate fell out. I grabbed it and stared at the strange object, and then the cops showed up. I ran around the room with Kagan's handkerchief and wiped the places down that I'd touched. It was too late to do the doorknob downstairs. I was about to leave through the back door when the wind swept something out of Kagan's shirt pocket. It was a pack of papers. Marine discharge papers. I picked them up. They didn't have the name Kagan on them. It was Barnes. I stuck it in my pocket and ran through the back door, just as I heard footsteps head up into Kagan's room. I followed a small hallway to a back staircase. It was dark and I couldn't see well. I kicked something. I looked around and pulling out my cigarette lighter, I looked at what I kicked. It was a green cloche hat.
We'll return with the third act of Eddie Mackin, Private Eye, in just a moment.
Hey! Hey, you there!
Me?
Yes, you! Do you wish for that close shave you've always dreamed of?
You mean one that's smooth and thorough?
Yes! Only a good clean shave at home comes from Colgate shaving cream. It'll leave you feeling refreshed and ready for anything.
Wow, that does clean!
Golly, that is a clean shave.
Yes, the real answer to any shaving problem is Colgate shaving cream. New, both brushable and in a can.
Now back to Eddie Mackin, Private Eye.
I had my right foot pressed down hard on the accelerator to make the McKay's arrow all the way back to the McKay's boarding house. I'd sucked in 3 cigarettes since I left the brownstone. The one I had just lit up was number 4. I came in the door in a hurry.
Eddie, what a surprise. I suppose you found something? Did he get to pay the rent?
Somewhat, Miss McKay. Look, here's an even 1,000. That should cover me and him for quite a while.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, it will, Eddie. How did he pay you?
He, didn't quite pay me, Mrs. McKay. Tonight he was murdered.
Oh, my heavens. Are you joking?
No, Miss McKay. Quick, show me his room. There's gonna be cops all over this place soon, and I'm on to something. I just need to know about something. Maybe his room can give me some information.
Why, of course. If you think it'll help, Eddie, here's the key. It's room 19.
I sprinted all the way to his room and flung open the door and stepped inside. I looked around, and the room was much like the room in the old Brimstone. It was piled high with boxes, and a closet full of suits and hats. I went to work on his dresser first. I opened a drawer to find nothing but argyles and underwear, but pushed back under a box was something very important. It was a 4-inch long 38 police special, a detective special. I stared at it. It was loaded with a box of shelves and a belt holster next to it. I put the holster on and slid the small gun into it. I dumped the cartridges into my pocket and walked over to one of the boxes and ripped it open. Inside, I wasn't surprised to find an empty film canister. On the front, it read, "The RKO Theaters, Pine Street." I went to the closet and grabbed at a hat box, and inside, a cloche, this time a blue one. I looked at the crown of the hat. It had an address, Mr. Topper's Hat Shop, 234 West California Street, number C234. I went out to the hallway and the house telephone. I dialed C234. A woman answered who wasn't too happy to hear from a customer.
Hello, Mr. Topper's Hat Shop, Carolyn speaking. Sorry, I'm too terribly busy to talk to you right now. If you're interested in a hat, please come by our store tomorrow. Otherwise...
Yeah, well, do you ever have a big guy come in there with a girl looking for cloche hats specifically?
That's a matter of privacy.
No, it isn't, sweetheart. I know the rule books.
Well, you just can't.
As the woman on the other end talked endlessly, I watched a small head bob in the window. I recognized it instantly, because it was a woman's head covered in a woman's hat. More specifically, a green cloche. I hung up fast, and she looked at me and ran. I sprinted out the door to grab her just in time before she climbed into an old gray coupe.
Let me go! Let me go! You can't do this. Please help!
Stop your blabbering. You're Kagan's girl, right? June, the one who loves cloches?
How do you know that?
You don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that one out. But you're not Kagan's only girl?
So you mean Carolyn was seeing that chump again behind my back?
I don't know, sweetheart. It was just a stab in the dark, but thanks for letting me know. Now, what did Kagan do for a living?
Did? Did for a living, don't you mean? Does?
Come on, baby. We both know you were there when Kagan took the bullet. I think you're the one who pulled the trigger.
Ducky's dead? Dead?
Never mind the carefully arched eyebrows, Angel. We both know you were there. I found your green cloche at the scene.
What? I'm wearing it now. How could you have lost it? I was with Kagan's mom all night long.
Well, I don't... Well, the little she-devil sped away, leaving me to wonder what to do next. It was about midnight now, so I decided I'd go into the hat shop first thing in the morning and have a little chat with this Carolyn who caused so much grief. Well, at noon the next day, I headed to the hat shop. I pulled my car to a stop behind the cherry red Chevy convertible and stared across the street into the shop. I was about to fall asleep when a green Nash pulled in front of the shop, and two men, one in pinstripes, the other in a funny Hawaiian print shirt, pulled a little girl out of the back. Something fell out of the car and onto the ground. It was a green cloche. It was June, Kagan's girl. They pulled her out and into the shop. The girl had two black eyes. I got out of my car and walked across the street and snuck into the hat shop real quiet, listening to voices talking in the back. One of them, the girl's, was Carolyn, the secret girlfriend, and the other was a man, one I had not heard yet.
Darren, look, I'm not worried. We did what we had to. That snoop was asking questions. If anything comes of it, Bugsy, he'll take care of it. Won't you, Bugsy, baby?
Listen here, Carolyn. Me and the boss, we got no problem killing people, but only when it's convenient. You didn't lose the reels, did you?
No, they're stored away nice and tight in the theater, janitor's closet, backstage. You can look for it yourself if you want to. I've got it stashed behind the counter. Now what do we do with that little Miss June over there?
Everything sounded calm at the moment, so I took a minute to look at the so important reels behind the counter. I snuck around the corner of the counter, past the racks of hats on the wall and in the display cases, and grabbed at one of the reel tins. What I didn't realize was that there were some under my nose, or more specifically, under my feet.
There! Someone's out there, behind the counter, the reels!
The one she called Darren and Bugsy stormed out of the back and came running towards the counter. I pulled my head down just in time to miss a bullet going through into the mirror behind me. I took out my pistol I'd taken from Kagan's room and fired back. Bugsy had taken cover a few display cases over from me. Darren kept up a volley of fire with a .45 coming from the doorway at the back. Carolyn screamed something, and Darren ran back. Bugsy jumped up and shot out all of the hats from above me. I gave back the shots and listened to a car motor roar off in the distance. I screamed at Bugsy, "Where'd you get that name, Bugsy? Did you steal that one from Cagney?" Bugsy fired and fired until he was on top of me, reached over the counter and grabbed me by the ears. Then he started to choke the life out of me. I brought the gun up and clocked him against the side of his temple. He slumped to the floor like a dead fish. I walked back behind the store to the storeroom and found more film canisters. I opened them and found more blocks of lead. I stared at them for a second until I noticed the red pool gathering on the floor. I looked up to see June laying quiet on the cardboard box in the corner. I sprinted over and picked her up. She was still alive by some miracle, although she looked like she was hit by a truck. I carried her out to the front of the store and laid her on the couch in the front. I went to the telephone and called the cops. It was about time to let someone know what was going on. Then they connected me to someone who said they knew me. But who?
Sergeant Mackin?
Terry Tellon?
God, it is you! What's this you wanted to tell us?
I made a quick summary of everything that happened in short order. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the hat shop.
Jeez, you don't even have a PI license and you're already skirting around the police? You're off to a bad start, Ed.
Yeah, I know. If I had known you were...
Hey, tell who is this clown?
Yeah, Ed, this is...
Yeah, we met. Just for a while in Korea. Don Adler, right?
Yeah, that's me, Don Adler. Bozo Tellon here's partner.
Yeah, look, Ed, if you do something or find something, tell us, okay?
We'll haul you in for withholding evidence.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Tellon. And
yeah.
Go eat your shirt.
You son of a...
I'll walk you out to your car, Ed.
We walked out to the car and Terry grabbed my shoulder.
Watch your back, Ed. You're playing with fire.
Tellon left me to think about what he just said. I had one last place to go, the theater, and to check on June. I wasn't quite sure what was going on yet, but I had a pretty good idea. The drive to the theater took a little longer than I thought, and jimmying the lock took a few extra minutes, but it actually paid off to my advantage. I walked in on Carolyn and Darren talking on the stage.
So yeah, I did what I had to keep the plan secret. He was getting too nosy. He was asking questions.
Well, obviously, you didn't do a good enough job. We still have loose ends. Like June. Or Mr. Amateur Detective.
Yeah, but I'm not so amateur anymore. No, pal, don't either of you two reach for a gun. This .38 in my hand is just itching to shoot. Let me fill in a few blanks. Kagan was a runner. Kagan was the dumb buck you hired to drop off the packages to your fronts. Like the hat shop, or this movie theater. That's why June thought Kagan was going around behind her back. He was helping you deliver the goods. Only Kagan started getting nosy to what was in the hat boxes, or the film reels. Maybe he took a peek. And maybe he played you two for blackmail. But you two aren't probably part of the syndicate. You're too small for big boy play. But then he got too nosy for his own good. Those blocks of lead in the reels and the hat boxes, they're not lead. They're counterfeiting plates. The best ones I've seen in a long while. And you've been making money, lots of it, and selling it. Only you beat Kagan at his own game. You started feeding Kagan counterfeit money. Only he got wise. And then June got wise to the whole thing because she put two and two together and figured out what you two were up to. So you had to try to get rid of her, and opportunity knocked. You bumped off Kagan and conveniently framed poor June because she happened to wear a certain type of hat all the time. And if I hadn't come in on it and found the hat, it would have worked too. Too bad.
Yeah, too bad indeed. You're not 100% right, but it's close enough you'll get the Koopy doll.
And I assume those boxes behind you are for a client?
He knows too much, Carolyn. I'm getting out of here while I still can. He's gonna kill us, Carolyn. He's gonna kill us!
I ain't gonna kill you, Darren!
Yeah, he wasn't talking about you, no brain.
Adler. Well, the police come to the rescue.
Not quite.
Don't try for your gun, Angel. Dumb kid. Well, Sherlock, you're quite the detective.
So you're the boss. I should have figured. You set the whole thing up. That's why it took so long for the cops to get to Kagan's murder scene.
That's right, Mackin. You know, you're too good at this detective thing, but I like you. You don't back down. I saw that in Korea. I tell you what, huh?
What?
You forget what you saw here today. I won't kill you. So I got this whole department wrapped around my finger like McCall around Bogey. If you keep shut about what went on here today, I'm going to get you a PI license. You have first rights to any crime scene like a murder cop does. Does that sound like a plan? I mean, if you refuse, I'll kill you and make it look like you were the boss. And don't think I can't do it, Eddie, because I can and I will. And you know that.
Well, what choice do I have? All right. I'll go with it. For now.
Try forever. Now get on home and forget about this. The money and the gun you took from Kagan, yours. Do what you want with it. Maybe even buy yourself a car or something.
Yeah, Don. Maybe I will. That was 3 weeks ago. June got out of the funk okay. Those paramedics sure did a good job. She's heading back home now. Oh, and she's taking Kagan's mom with her. 2 weeks ago, I went in and applied for my private investigator license. They had it waiting for me. So that's my job. I run it out at the little janitor's office in the McKay's rooming house. That's my office if you ever need a private eye in San Francisco. I think I'll stay on at the McKay's. They're good people. I like that, Katie. Oh, well, I guess I should get to bed. Wait, what's this? Oh, it's that picture that Kagan had in his suit. July of 52. Well, let's see what's in it. Oh, that's my squad from Korea. That's my squad right after I left due to injury, and Kagan's in the back row, right next to Adler. But in this picture, Kagan isn't called Kagan. His name is Barnes. Charles Barnes. You've just listened to Eddie Mackin, Private Eye, a full half hour of radio deductive suspense. We invite you to tune in again next time when you'll hear Eddie say, "It could have been wonderful. 2 honeymooners at a small hotel. 2 people who couldn't have been more in love. But soon the fights came, the storm blew in, and hatred was around the corner of a cool breeze. I could have lost my head if it weren't for the lasting promise." We now wish you good night from Eddie Mackin, Private Eye, reminding you that you're listening to KVRH, the first in entertainment on the radio. In tonight's cast were Avery Martinez as Eddie Mackin, Annie DeVinny as Katie McKay, Lois Martinez as Lynetta McKay, Orion Gamber as Detective Tellin, Isaac Zakonis as Detective Adler, and also featured were Michael Ritchie and Jonah Byers. Tune in next time at the same time on the Old Time Radio Story Hour to hear the next thrilling episode of Eddie Mackin, Private Eye. All scripts and characters within the script are the rightful legal binding parts of Avery Martinez, who wrote the script. Any similarity to any person living or dead is purely coincidental.